Thank you, gentlemen. Senator Leno, moving back to the budget bills, file item 113. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 1603 by the Assembly Committee on Budget, enacting to public social services and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. This is our Omnibus Human Services trailer bill, and among the significant items in it, we will, as discussed yesterday, repeal the maximum family grant. This policy will help about 130,000 children who are living below 50% of the federal poverty line. Also, using one-time general fund dollars, as part of our No Place Like Home initiative, we'll establish the Bringing Families Home program, which will award funds to counties for the purpose of providing housing-related supports to families in the child welfare system who are experiencing homelessness. Additionally, there'll be an incentive for counties to make use of the Housing and Disability Income Advocacy Program, again, using one-time general fund dollars to do outreach to those who are homeless or poor, who are eligible for SSI, SSP, the SSI part, of course, being a federally funded program, so that we can pick up federal dollars that are currently unused on the table for those who are in great need. The incentive for counties to make use of these one-time general fund dollars is that to the degree that they can get eligible folks enrolled in SSI, there will be a decrease in costs to their general assistance program. And then additionally, we'll be providing a cost of living increase to recipients in the SSI, SSP program. Again, this is a part of our anti-poverty program. Worthy of your support. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Senator McGuire, under debate and discussion.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Good morning to you. Happy Thursday. I want to first start out by thanking our chair of budget, in particular our budget sub-chair as well, and the pro tem for all of their work on this vital budget. I do want to speak briefly on the issue of developmental centers in the state of California. California has 3 developmental centers remaining: Sonoma, Porterville, and Fairview. And over 1,000 of our most medically fragile residents will be transferred from those developmental centers into the community over the next 5 to 8 years. There is some significant concern with that transition, though. Originally, there was a state staff plan that was recommended by our budget sub-chair to be advanced in this budget, and it was taken out. But we must invest heavily to ensure a smooth transition for these medically fragile residents. And this state staff plan is proven to be successful, and it keeps the best and brightest state staff on during the transition as well as in the years to come into the community. And it is important to point out, in the transition of these developmental centers, we are tracking 54% behind in community placements. We need to fully resource this transition because we are talking about human lives. And to make matters even more complicated, due to some violations, the state is now on the hook for an additional $26 million annually at the Sonoma Developmental Center. We cannot expedite the closure process without fully resourcing the transition process to ensure that these residents are successful and thrive in the years to come. And this year is going to have to be the year that we resource this budget. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator McGuire. Any further debate or discussion on this item? Any further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close.
Ask for your aye vote.
All debate having ceased, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Bates. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No. Block. Aye. Cannella. Aye. De Leon. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Wesso. I Huff. No Jackson. I Lada. I Leno. I Leva. I Liu. I McGuire. I Mendoza. I Mitchell. I Monning. I Morlock. Morrell. No Wynn. I Nilsson. No Pan. I Pavley. I Roth. I Runner. Stone. No Vidak. No Wykowski. I Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Anderson, aye. Bates. De Leon, aye. Morlock, no. Runner.
Ayes 29, noes 9. The measure passes. Moving on to file item 114. File item 114, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 1606 by the Assembly Committee on Budget, enacting to developmental services and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this is our Omnibus Developmental Services Trailer Bill. And as we continue to make this transition of services for those currently in our developmental centers to community-based services, this bill requires the Department of Developmental Services to provide an update to the legislature regarding how the department will ensure access to specifically crisis services post-developmental closure. It also limits the use of seclusion and restraints in enhanced behavioral support homes. It also requires regular public posting, that would be on the department's website, of the process being made to develop residential capacity by regional centers, including information on monthly targets for movers based on transition activities and community resource development activities by regional centers. This process of transitioning our most vulnerable Californians to community services will require the most intensive oversight and monitoring because, as has been stated, these are our most vulnerable and in many cases have lived many years, if not a near lifetime, in the developmental centers. The move to community-based services is based on a number of reasons, not the least of which is that it is the directive that we are getting from the federal government. So we need to do it right. We do know that when it is done right, and that means having the sufficient infrastructure in our communities, that we can provide more fulfilling life opportunities for those currently in our developmental centers. I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Debate or discussion on this item? Is there any debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Wesso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Lada. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Morrell. Aye. Wynn. Aye. Nilsson. Aye. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Stone. Aye. Vidak. Aye. Wykowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Mendoza. Morlock. Aye. Runner.
Ayes 38, no 0. That measure passes. Moving to file item 92. We're going back to file item 92. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 1607 by the Assembly Committee on Budget, enacting to Medi-Cal, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this bill includes an urgency clause, of course, requiring a 2/3 majority vote, and it extends the hospital quality assurance fee, which otherwise would sunset January 1st, 2017 to January 1st, 2018. By taking this action, there's an estimated $845 million general fund savings in the 2017-2018 budget. For obvious reasons, I would ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion on this item? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of AB 1607. The existing hospital quality assurance fee is estimated to provide about $800. We just heard the budget chair say $825. I'll defer to his wisdom on this. But annual savings to the general fund, with a certain portion of the fee revenue offsetting general fund costs, providing children's health care coverage. Currently, the budget assumes the quality assurance fee sunsets January 1st, 2017. Strongly supported by California's hospital providers, the bill would extend the sunset date by 1 year, so the budget could assume a full year of savings to the state. Legislative Analyst's Office raised this issue in its analysis of the 2016-17 Medi-Cal budget and recommended that the sunset be extended this year. Since its inception in 2009 through SB 239, the hospital quality assurance fee has resulted in nearly $10 billion in new federal funding for Medi-Cal patients that seek care in hospitals for inpatient and outpatient traditional and managed care services, as well as specialty care, including trauma, high acuity, inpatient, psychiatric, subacute care, and transplant services. The quality assurance fee also mitigates $6 billion in annual losses by California's hospitals due to the difference between the cost of caring for Medi-Cal patients and the Medi-Cal program's payments for those services. The state has also been receiving 24% of the net increase in payments for hospital services created by the fee program, which is used to pay for health care coverage for children. I respectfully encourage an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Any further debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close.
The pro tem and I ask for your aye vote.
Very good. This is an urgency matter. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. Bates. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Canella. I. De Leon. Fuller. I. Gaines. No. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. I. Jackson.
Aye.
I. Lara. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. Vidak. I. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Anderson. No. Bates. I. De Leon. I. Morlock. I. Runner. Stone.
Ayes 34, noes 4 on the urgency. Ayes 34, noes 4 on the measure. Moving to the next item, which is file item 117. File item 117, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 1610 by the Assembly Committee on Budget, enacting to transportation and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno. One moment. This is the transportation. Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is our transportation trailer bill, and it will make various statutory changes to implement the budget bill that we passed just yesterday, including requirement that the Department of Motor Vehicles pilot and evaluate a process to register voters. This would be according to a law that was passed last year to address voters that do not fully complete the registration process, and then to report back in October of this year on the outcome of this pilot. Currently, we've had a few bumps in the road, excuse the expression, and we want to make sure that we make best use of best practices in other states that seem to have figured this out. So the study will include looking at where process is working better than it is here. It also increases the base vehicle registration fee, not to be confused with a vehicle license fee, by $10 effective the first of the year, and indexes the base registration fee to Consumer Price Index beginning in 2017 and 18. It also requires the controller to distribute state transit assistance funding for the current year and then the following 2 years to the very same entities and according to the same ratios as calculated and published by the controller for the fourth quarter of 2014-15. There had been concerns among stakeholders that a new formula that was used was not fair, and so we're going to pause and go back to the prior system until we work out the differences. And then lastly, it also makes statutory changes to require motor carriers to obtain a United States Department of Transportation number as a condition of being assigned a California carrier identification number here in California. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion on this item. Senator Nielsen, followed by Senator Waso.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is an area that has provoked a lot of angst amongst the folks that we represent. This is the license fee, now being increased another $10, resulting in $330 million more money to the state of California. But at issue here, for many years, $70 million, and now this will go up to $80 million of this money that our motoring public should rightly assume and was required to go into purposes related to transportation have been going into the state general fund. And now upwards to $80 million will go into the state general fund. The motoring public paying this fee, which will now be indexed also, will have no idea where that money's going, assuming that it had some nexus and some purpose to what they're paying it for, related to driving, to motoring. But it will not be for that purpose. I think that should most assuredly be objectionable. And also, I compliment the governor trying to invest in state buildings, some of which would be related to the legislative buildings. But in inquiries in the course of understanding really what this means, the legislature will be abdicating an awful lot of responsibility to the administration over the facilities that we, in the future, I won't even be here, most of you won't either, but the legislature and its staff will be functioning in. There will be reports to the legislature, but the legislature will have very little control over what that future will be. When this Capitol was restored, the legislative body had quite a lot of say in what was going to happen in the restored Capitol building. In the future, that would not be the case under the provisions of this bill. But particularly, I object to the fee being indexed, being raised, and yet again, we're extending that money going into the general fund. Let's be honest with the motoring public. Let's have their money go for motoring purposes. I urge a no vote.
Senator Waso, followed by Senator Marlock. Senator Waso.
Thank you, Madam President. Regretfully, I rise in opposition of 1610. I have a problem with some administrative policies that the governor's office is putting forward that necessitate an increase in registration fees. As many of you know, there's an issue related to the TNCs, the Transportation Network Companies in this state, in which the administration sought to exempt them from paying commercial fees. We have one company in this state worth $68 billion that is being exempted from paying commercial license fees to the tune that add up to approximately $4 million a year for that just one company. Now, I drive a truck. I drive a an American-made truck, and I have to pay every year I have to pay $24 commercial license plate fee, even if I don't engage in any commercial business. Yet we have a company engaging in commercial business that is exempted from paying that commercial fee. I think it's unfair that we increase rates on the general public to subsidize the operation of a company that's worth $68 billion who can afford the $4 million to the state. This money our state should collect. This money should go pay for the wonderful things that this bill seeks to do. That money should be used to pay for those things. That's why I have a problem supporting this today. I won't support it. I'm going to stay off this bill. I do want to talk about the wonderful things this bill does, but at this time, I find myself in a very difficult position, wanting to support this bill, but opposed to an administrative policy the governor's office is promoting that is, I think, is causing harm. It's causing an injustice. It's just unfair that all commercial businesses must pay this, but one the governor chooses to subsidize on his own without legislative action, without legislative input. He has sought to create this exemption through DMV, and I think it's unfair. And for that, I want to send a message to the governor's office saying that he needs to correct that before I start supporting rate increases to the transportation ratepayers in the state of California. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Senator Hueso. Senator Morlock, followed
Madam
by
President.
Senator Gaines. Senator Morlock.
I also rise in opposition to Senate Bill 838, joining the senator from San Diego. This is a $330 million increase, $10 annually for the vehicle registration fee. Colleagues, we just voted for SB 831, item 113 on our agenda, which increases IHSS costs by $300 million due to an increase in the minimum wage. Now, I warned you there would be unintended consequences when we raised the minimum wage, but we are now saying, because the budget is fluid and we can allocate funds wherever we wish, that now we can't allocate $300 million because we're paying for higher costs because of the minimum wage increase. This now impacts every car owner in the state. We're imposing a $10 fee on 33 million cars and their owners, and I object. And I oppose this bill and urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator Morlock. Senator Gaines.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I rise in opposition to AB 1610, and I too are very concerned about the vehicle license fee going up by $10, hitting the poorest individuals in our state with the biggest impact in terms of their budgets. At a time when California, we laud the fact that the California economy is the sixth largest economy in the world, but do we talk enough about California having the largest poverty rate in the nation, the largest number of people living in poverty in the nation? And as my colleague from Orange County mentioned, we've got the minimum wage impacting the state budget to the tune of $4 billion in 2022 when it's fully implemented. While at the same time, our governor is voicing the fact that we better be prepared for a recession. And yet, with that recession, and even with the good deed by the governor in terms of a rainy day fund, we're talking about $12 billion being set aside for that. But even with a mild recession, the revenue loss is predicted to be $55 billion. So we're going down a path, I think, that is continuing to burden citizens here in California, especially those at the lower economic level, the poor, by increasing this fee in particular, but also in many other ways. Potential of the impending recession, the implementation of minimum wage, which is estimated to actually create the loss of 500,000 jobs in California. And so I'm very fearful about the future of California in terms of its governance, and hope that the economy does continue to grow so that we can embrace and bring everybody up. And I think when we take a look at the consternation within the political discourse today, it's because people are frustrated and they haven't been able to move up the economic ladder. Whether you're poor and not being able to move up to the middle class, or whether you're stagnated within the middle class and haven't seen any income appreciation within your family, within your household over the course of the last decade. So I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Nielsen, one more time, followed by Senator Leyva.
Madam President, I wish to rise to correct myself. As
Without
this
objection.
budget process is wound down, I found myself last night dreaming speeches on the budget trailer bills. I misspoke. This bill is only about the vehicle license. It is not about the capital outlay. So I stand corrected from my dreams last night. I got them muddled up.
I suggest you might try other medications so that you don't end up dreaming about your speeches on the floor, anyone else's. But thank you for correcting yourself. I'm sure we all appreciate that, correcting the record. Senator Leyva, how were your dreams last night?
Lovely. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Leyva.
Madam President, I rise question of the author.
The author accept the question without objection.
Senator Leno, I was hoping maybe you could explain where this vehicle registration fee goes. My understanding that it was that it did not go to the general fund, so I was hoping for a little clarification.
Thank you, Senator Leyva. I would have addressed this in my close, and I'll get to part of it in the close nonetheless. In some of the comments, and I appreciate everyone's thoughts and concerns here, there has been some confusion with regard to vehicle license fee and vehicle registration fee. So the dreaded car tax, as our previous governor rebranded the vehicle license fee, which we had been all paying for 50 years. No one had raised it as a political issue. It suddenly became a political weapon. That is not what we're talking about here. And the vehicle license fee, all that money goes to cities and counties for their operations. That never came, nor does it come to the state government. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the vehicle registration fee. And you were right, Senator Leyva, that does not go to the general fund. It goes to the motor vehicle account. And the purpose of the motor vehicle account is to pay for the operational expenses of the California Highway Patrol, also for upgrades to its field offices. There's also significant need for seismic retrofitting of those CHP field offices. That's where this money goes. Now, there was mention of the account itself. There was a taking of about $70 million in the depths of our recession when we were trying to balance the general fund of money from the motor vehicle account to the general fund, about $70 million. There is currently a $400 million deficit to that account. So the $70 million that we took, being very forthright about it, is a relatively small part of that deficit. Now, independent of that $400 million deficit, there's a structural operating imbalance to the account, which means we are spending more on CHP operations and upgrades and improvements to their field offices and their seismic retrofit needs than this fee is taking in. So it is a structural operating deficit that is completely independent of the deficit the fund has itself. So we either have to stop spending on what that account funds, CHP operations in particular, or we have to increase the fee, one or the other. The fee is for a purpose, and it's not sufficient to cover the operations of the purpose of the account. And so what we're doing with this $10 increase is to adjust it for the cost of living increases since the last time it was adjusted about 4 years ago. It is about equal to what the inflation rate has been since that time. I hope that answers your question.
Any further debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, do you wish to add anything as your close? Senator Leno is asking for an aye vote. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block. I. Canella. No. De Leon. I. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. No. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Hueso. Huff. No. Jackson.
Aye.
I. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. No. Morell. No. Wynn. No. Nilsson. No. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. Runner. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Anderson, no. Hueso. Roth. Runner.
Ayes 23, noes 14. The measure passes. Colleagues, we are going to go now to file item 65 on Senate third reading. File item 65 on Senate third reading. It is part of our first supplemental file. Mr. Secretary, please read.